If you say that you're a pro skateboarder now, that has much more merit than when I said I was a pro skateboarder in 1984.
Club Random.
Ended up with a broken pelvis, fractured skull, and a lot of pain.
Did you ever think you were going to die doing that?
Club Random.
That's fair.
Hey, welcome.
Hiding behind the post?
How are you?
Wow. You look different in person.
Oh, yeah? Is that good or bad?
You look younger.
Oh, I'd say that's good then. Thank you. So do you.
How old are you now?
55.
Come on. Really?
I am.
You know, it's depressing that, like, I was born in the 50s, kid in the 60s. I can take the 60s, 70s being like ancient history, but the 90s, kids
to kids,
who were
especially
born after or in.
younger kids, they're like, you mean in the 1900s?
How old are your kids?
They range from 31 to 15, and then a bunch of 20-somethings in between.
How many in this illiterate?
Yeah. Five boys.
You have 6 kids.
5 boys, yeah, between my wife and I, yeah.
From one woman?
No.
That would be a lot to ask of one woman.
Yes.
You know, birth's got to be a bitch, right?
It looks very traumatizing, yes.
They say a man, you know that old cliche, a man could never undergo the pain of a woman giving birth. That's what I have to say to women.
It looks like they have an out-of-body experience.
Have giving birth?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, at least like if you're being tortured, I mean, like what? Like, you know, men get tortured.
Sure.
Women do too, but I mean, like, probably more men because they're serving more in the military. Not that women don't, but certainly in the time when they were getting captured. So if you're giving birth, it's painful, but it's a positive experience. You're giving life.
Sure. I don't see a lot of people comparing those two specifically, though, childbirth and torture. So,
well,
I think there's...
it begs it because if you're going to defend the idea that there's nothing more painful than childbirth, then I'm going to throw in torture.
I see. Okay, we're just going all the way to the extreme. I understand.
Well, I mean, if you're saying it's the most, then I got to go to. How else do I argue that? Am I wrong?
I don't. Well, I don't know if you're wrong, but I just think that's an extreme scenario. So, but I'm not apples to oranges. I mean, you know, pain is pain.
Pain is pain, and I'm sure you've had a lot of it.
I've had enough. I actually was telling someone just now. I've had just enough to keep me in check, but not make me quit what I do.
Well, but you're not still doing what you did when you were 25.
Not on that level, but I'm still doing it to a certain degree. Yes.
To a degree that could.
Yeah, most people would consider it reckless. Yeah.
So you're like the Mike Tyson of.
Maybe.
Your sport.
How old is he now?
60, and he's fighting again.
Yeah. Well, so at least I got a few more good years.
But are you in competition at 50?
No. I mean, sometimes they have a legends category of competition.
Right.
And I get into those once in a while. But honestly, there's so many outlets now in terms of if you are a pro skater, you are a pro skater. You have social media, you have all these other ways to be out there.
Sure.
That you don't have to compete anymore.
But
in my day, you had to compete to get recognized or get any sort of success.
Also, competition is your drug.
I would say it was...
elite athletes.
It was my incentive for sure, but my big directive all through the years was just learning new tricks. And so the competition was incidental to that. In fact, sometimes that got in the way of progression to me because I had to skate in this sort of conservative way to compete. Couldn't take many chances.
Interesting.
And then when the competition was over, I was on the ramp the next day trying to learn tricks.
So when did that change, when they recognized instead of squelched what you were good at?
That's a good question. I mean, I got a lot of flack through the years just because my style was weird. I was mostly focused on tricks, and so I didn't look like I was flowing. I didn't have a lot of height because I was small. I think it was probably, honestly, not until maybe my second decade of skating that
Really?
I got more respect for my skills. Yeah.
But I mean, as someone who's not a great follower of it, like you're the name I know. You're the, I mean, from my view, from as not one of those on the inside, it was like it wouldn't take me 2 seconds if it was a word association
Okay.
and they said your name or skateboarding.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I don't think that's the majority of the country.
I think that stems also from our video game success. A lot of that, especially in terms of non-skaters.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought it was more that you were this innovator of a way of doing it that leveled it up, that took it to a different level.
I'm honored if that's the narrative.
Am I wrong?
I definitely created a different way of doing it, mostly out of desperation, because I was so small that I couldn't figure out how to do the aerial maneuvers that I saw these bigger kids doing, like these men doing. And I created a technique of doing it that required less strength, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then
Sure.
that allowed me to finally get airborne like I wanted to, and that became the sort of standardized way to do it going forward.
I'm just saying that sometimes somebody, it's rare, but somebody in a sport will do something and it makes the sport a different, it takes it to a different kind of place. I mean, Babe Ruth is the great example because, I mean, before that, you know, nobody hit a lot of home runs. It was a rare thing. That's not how you scored. I think one year Ty Cobb led the league with 9.
Right.
It was more like a triple. And then he, you know, bombed, you know, 59 and 60. That was, you know, and just
You
changed.
figured out a way to do it without running the bases.
Yeah, when I see the footage of him, he's not as fat as they make it in. But I mean,
I wasn't saying. I'm just saying, like, it was just.
No, but
it
he
was
was
just,
fat.
But in his eyes, it was like, well, this is the way I get a score.
But it just shows you it's not always about the body.
Right.
I mean, that was a bad body. That was like a dad bod plus. You know,
Dad bod. Yeah.
and he was drunk. You know, I mean, this guy could eat a home run drunk eating a pork chop.
Yep. Yeah.
He probably did several times, sometimes with one hand. And I mean, he was a badass.
He was fascinating.
And
I thought that movie was good too.
which movie?
John Goodman.
John Goodman. That's right. I remember that. He was perfect to play him.
He was. Yeah. Well, cheers. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Although there are people, and I may be one of them, who think Babe Ruth very well may be at least half black. If you look at him, his features, it's just not out of the question that the greatest player in the sport that worked desperately hard to keep the black people out of the sport was himself. It could be. I don't know. But his background is a little murky.
Yeah.
You know,
sure.
orphanage.
Right.
But that would make him even more of a towering figure. Like it would be like if they knew that Jack Johnson, who was also like an amazing badass, Jackie Robinson. Of course. I mean, your sport is not like diversity crazy, is it?
Oh, it is. Yeah,
it
absolutely.
Is?
Yeah.
So who are the best people now? Who are the?
Oh, so many. Wow.
Like,
some of the best skaters from Japan.
You keep up with the kids, the younger kids. You talk to them. You mentor them. You're like, they must see you.
If they want my help, I don't actively seek it. I don't want to impose anything on them. But if they ask me any advice, I'm happy to give it. My style of skating is more the half pipe, the ramp kind of skating, whereas the more popular discipline of skating is street, which is just out in the wild, skating the rails and the ledges and I did a little bit of that, but at some point I realized I'm not moving the needle doing this, and my ankles hurt from doing it so much.
Yes, they do.
And I like flying, so I just went back to skating the ramps, and that's kind of where I
injuries now that you still are dealing with from.
Yeah, I would say the biggest one, the most chronic one, is my neck, because I just had so many whiplashes through my life. But actually, I got stem cells a couple months ago for my neck, and I am just now feeling the positive effects of it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
But even after the first time that happened? It didn't deter you from.
No, I mean, the first time I got hurt, I was 11. I got concussion, knocked out my front teeth, and I literally woke up in the ambulance. And my first thought was not, oh my God, what have I done? My first thought was, why did I fall on that trick and how can I do it better? And I think that was probably a defining moment in my career.
What do you attribute this inordinate amount of drive and ambition and
Stubbornness.
Really?
More obsessive, yeah. I mean, it definitely determined. My mom used to always say I was determined. That was her way of speaking nicely when her friends were like, "Your son's a terror."
And your kids take after you?
In various ways, yeah. Yeah.
They have the same kind of drive?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. In different ways, for sure. I would say a couple of them, maybe more than me, and against their own health, against their own well-being. And then others are very talented, but not as eager to push the limits. And then some kind of, my oldest son is a pro skater.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Most people who talk to me about their kids are always complaining that they're too woke and they drive them crazy with their... you find that problem with your kids? You find them to be always
No, I mean,
correcting you?
I've definitely seen the shift of attitudes and the generation, because we do have varying ages, and I see how even my oldest is more steeped in this attitude or whatever from his early days in the 90s and the 2000s, and then the younger ones are definitely more aware of everything else and pronouns and things like that. So I feel like we see the full spectrum of it, and my wife and I are pretty loose. We just roll with it. We're not trying to impose any sort of values in that way on them.
No, it's them trying to impose it on you.
They don't for us, no.
They don't.
No.
They don't try to shame you, like.
No, but but like I said, I would say we're more understanding in that way. We're not, because my wife and I both had, we had parents. My dad was in World War II.
Mine too.
Yeah, and so he was much older when I was born. But he and my mom, children of the Depression, they were just, this is how it is.
That's right.
Yeah. So I tried to be a little more open-minded than that.
There's got to be a middle ground.
I believe so, yes.
I mean, what they call it gentle parenting.
Yeah, we're not that.
It's
I will tell you, we're not that. We're children of the 70s. We're not gentle parenting. Yeah.
Right.
At some point, you got to hear hard no's.
Right. But no corporal punishment.
No.
Never hit a kid?
No.
Were you hit as a kid?
I was not. No.
Never was spanked?
No.
Really?
I think my dad had a pretty abusive background, and he was very adamant to not keep that going, that cycle.
Maybe that's why you want so much pain now. You missed it in childhood. Well,
I had plenty in my childhood. I mean, I started skating at age 10.
I got spanked.
Yeah.
Not often.
Right.
But it was like the nuclear option.
Right.
Which that to me is the correct policy for corporal punishment. Of course, you put it in the hands of sadists and stupid people and drunks and drug addicts, but that's true of everything with a child. If a child is living with a psycho of some kind, it's going to be horrible, and it's probably going to manifest in some sort of physical violence as well, and that's horrible. But that doesn't mean you need to proscribe this for the majority of people who, kids are little fucking monsters. They're feral. You have to educate them to be decent humans. It's not innate.
No, you definitely, but you can teach them to make good choices, I think, without physically abusing them. I think that what you're saying,
abusing them.
But I understand what you're saying.
Spanking is not an abuse.
But I think your experience or whatever is more of an exception to the rule when you think about people who are regularly spanking or
Not
hitting their kids.
not in my generation.
No.
In my generation, everybody got spanked. In fact, I mean, it's hysterical.
I did actually. I got hit in school once.
Oh, and then there were the nuns. They would.
Yeah,
they would,
well, I
they
wasn't
would,
going to Catholic school, but
Yeah, no, I got hit with a ruler by nuns. Like I didn't go to. I went to.
I got hit with the equivalent of a phone book.
Catechism, and they had a ruler. That I guess it was just the why you would carry a ruler. I think only for that purpose. We weren't measuring things.
Right.
We weren't
Oh
measuring.
yeah, it was definitely the whipping stick.
The whipping stick.
Yep.
And it was on the knuckles.
Yep.
And it smarted. And I don't think that's the worst thing to do to a kid. And look, I mean,
It smarted. That was the perfect generational term for that.
Absolutely did. Oh, that's smart. And that's why the kids today have no smarts. Good night, everyone. But it is. I do think it's connected. I think kids need boundaries. They need discipline. They're not getting it. That's why they've gone insane.
Well, okay, but having a lot of kids and you have none, I think it's easier for you to generalize that.
Well, I mean, we can look at it two ways. You're too close to it, and I'm too far to it. You see
True.
your kids, and when people look at their own kids, it's very hard for them to see flaws. Their kids are.
Oh, I'm not saying they're not flawed. No way did I say that, and I never would, nor would they. I mean,
of course, yeah. But I mean, parents, it's hard to be objective about your own kids. So maybe I'm sure you're right. You're not in this category, but lots of parents, and this is one of the big problems with parenting and all the problems it causes down the road for all of us in society, is that parents don't give their kids boundaries. They don't.
Say no. They
don't
rarely
say
say no.
Exactly.
I agree with you there.
They take the path of least resistance.
And also just the idea that you have to compliment everything.
Right.
For jobs that are expected.
Oh.
That's the rub for me.
And then you know what the result of that is like you grow up like that, and I see it in society. Like people now, that the younger two generations expect to be complimented for just ordinary things. I got this this exercise machine. I won't say the company, but and it comes with an app on your phone, and you connect that to the TV, and then you basically there's a trainer on there, many programs, and I did this for a few months. I just couldn't take it anymore because the trainers, it's not what they're telling me to do, it's that every 5 seconds they have to tell me
Doing great. Killing it.
You're a warrior. Just shut the fuck up and tell me what to pick up next.
I mean, I want to say that was part of, my dad was very rare with compliments. And so when I was doing, skating and stuff, it wasn't that I was doing it to impress him, but definitely there was a part of me that was like.
Absolutely. I remember my father once looking at my report card, and it was like all A's except like 1 B.
Right.
And he which was in like science or something, and he just went, had some tough tests in science this term.
Yeah,
like a little dig.
I know. Yeah.
And it's like just enough to make me want to get his approval even more next time, which I don't think is the worst thing in the world. Because I probably did do better next time. I mean,
we could have used a little encouragement.
Absolutely. No, I mean, that generation, which apparently is both our parents' generation, the World War II generation, the Depression and the war. I mean, these motherfuckers were hard.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yep.
These kids, they think don't even know the meaning of it. Hard. They were hardened by
my mom was trying to raise 4 kids. She's working.
Oh.
My dad is in the Navy. It was definitely not easy. I've recently found something she wrote. She passed away, but where she was talking about her life. She's like, my life is generally good. We could have used a little more money in the coffer.
It's one thing that nobody in the first half of the 1940s ever said to each other. What are you doing these days?
Yeah, working.
The war.
Yeah.
Okay, we're all doing the war. Yeah. Okay, we're all involved with the war.
We're fighting.
We're fighting. Either on the home front
to stay alive.
We're just all
or
in
fighting
this.
the enemy.
We're all in on
for
this
sure.
thing.
Yeah.
Support for today's episode comes from OneSkin. And if you have sensitive skin, wait until you hear about their scientifically proven topical supplements. Free from over 1,500 chemicals and preservatives that can make your skin mad, these products are safe for sensitive skin. It's just one of the reasons they've earned this skin-safe seal of approval. It uses a peptide called OS1 to reduce the number of dying cells by 50%. Founded by an all-women team of scientists who get along much better than the women in the WNBA, OneSkin's products are backed by extensive lab and clinical data to validate their safety on all skin types. Not only that, they're the first and only skin longevity company to target the very complicated things that make your skin age. For a limited time, you can try OneSkin for 15% off using the code RANDOM when you check out at oneskin.co. Give your skin the scientifically proven gentle care it deserves with OneSkin. By focusing on the cellular aspects of aging, OneSkin keeps your skin looking and acting younger for longer. Get started today with 15% off using RANDOM at oneskin.co. That's 15% off oneskin.co with code RANDOM. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support your show and tell them we sent you. Hey, it's summer. July 4th is right around the corner, and we know what that means. It's party season. Like that never ends. And whoever wants to waste a gorgeous summer day stuck on the couch because of a few drinks the night before, Z-Biotics is the answer we've all been looking for. Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Begging the question, how much were these scientists drinking? Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Z-Biotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. It's designed to work like your liver, but in your gut, where you need it most. Just remember to drink Z-Biotics before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best the next day. I don't drink as much as I used to, and one of the big reasons is that I hate to waste a day. But with Z-Biotics, you can feel much better after having even just a few drinks. Go to zbiotics.com/random to get 15% off your first order when you use RANDOM at checkout. You can also sign up for a subscription using my code, so you can stay prepared no matter the time or occasion. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/random and use the code RANDOM at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, Z-Biotics, for sponsoring this episode. Are you going to go into politics?
I am
because
not.
you
Not
are
at all.
very political.
No.
It seems like it. You slip and slide on every question.
I would say slip and slide. I do
look at
feel
that. I
like
wouldn't say slip and slide. What I would say is
I'm definitely hardened in my vagueness. No.
that's a great phrase. That's a book title. Hardened in my vagueness. I'm going to steal that. That's genius.
I think I just experienced so many walks of life, and I've experienced so
What do you mean walks of
just
life?
in terms of skateboarding, like so many people that chose to skateboard were outcasts and misfits and had really difficult backgrounds. And so I just grew up around all that. So I
Right.
came to be much more understanding.
I remember doing this joke about, it's probably in my book, which
Oh, wow. Did someone drop that there? By
yeah,
accident?
somebody
That's
just
so
dropped
weird.
this here. Oh, what this Guardian said will shock you. Anyway, pre-order it now. But there's one in there about, we're talking about cultural appropriation, and they were doing it with sports. And they got mad last Olympics with surfing because it was cultural appropriation from Hawaii.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is your sport in the Olympics?
Yes.
See?
As of last in Tokyo.
Right. That's congratulations.
Yeah, it is a big deal.
Well, you
And
probably
Paris this year.
you did that probably more than anyone.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Anyway, so we were talking about how it's so ridiculous. First of all, surfing, Like, how do we know where it started? The idea of standing on a board in the water.
I mean, it's pretty well documented that it was Hawaii, but I do feel like they honor
Oh,
Hawaii
come
in
on.
that.
There was zillions of islands around there. Like, that never thought, nobody else thought of that. Even if they did, so the fuck what? Why is it wrong?
Oh, no, I didn't say it was wrong. I didn't just
But
saying
this
that-
is what they were saying. It's cultural
Okay,
appropriation.
yeah, I don't agree
and
with
then
that.
we mentioned,
There's a hardened opinion. I don't agree with that. How's that? That it's not appropriation.
okay. So we do agree, though, right? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Right. I mean, it's standing on the board in the water. I mean, it's just fun in the ocean. Okay, so, but then like badminton came from France, I think, or maybe tennis.
sure.
You don't know that?
I don't know.
I think tennis came from France, and maybe skiing came from Norway. Judo
on the
came
range.
from Korea, or Taekwondo came from Korea. Judo came from the Far East, and skateboarding came from the Far Out. That
Wow.
was the joke, which I always thought was pretty cute. But to your point, like it always seemed like a place for misfits.
Yes, absolutely. It was where we belonged. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like as opposed to like picking up a guitar, you did that.
Yeah, but I think there was a sense of community in skateboarding where here's how I felt. I played basketball and baseball, and I was okay. I never felt like I was making measured progress in any of those.
Right.
And then every time I skated, I got better at it.
Right.
So at some point I thought,
Well-
this is what I love doing because I love the freedom of it and I love that I always improve what I'm doing. And then I found this community of people that were supportive, but also were understanding and it was an individual pursuit. And it was more like, this is more like an art form as much as a sport.
Almost like ballet.
Sure. But with,
Or not.
like,
You don't have to humor me on that.
I mean,
Well,
the
I mean,
closest
ballet
thing-
is
yeah.
because ballet is athletic
yeah.
as well as an art form. It's a little like,
Yeah,
you know,
but the idea that skateboarding was highly competitive. I mean, I guess ballet is highly competitive in terms of you're trying out for roles and stuff, but I'm talking about like
well,
there were these competitions where you were getting judged and you wanted to do well so you could get recognized to move forward. But what I found was just this group of people that were so creative and supportive yet motivated. And they listened to weird music, they dressed weird, they had crazy haircuts, and I loved it. And I felt like these are my people. And so when I had any modicum of success, the first thing I wanted to do was provide those facilities for kids who are disenfranchised and kids who choose skateboarding but don't have anywhere to go to do it.
so you were rebelling against your stern father.
He was actually very supportive of skateboarding.
He was.
He was, yeah.
From the beginning?
From the beginning,
That's
yeah,
right.
because he saw what it provided me, and also, I mean,
Well-
let's put it this way: the year I chose to go all in on skateboarding was the same year they appointed him Little League president in our area, and he was okay with me quitting Little League in that year, which was an awkward conversation, but
Why? Because he was so invested in you being a baseball player?
well, the only reason he's in the part of the Little League is I'm on a team.
Right.
And I quit. So he had to finish out the year without any of his kids in Little League.
Right. Yeah, that is embarrassing.
And I would be at the skate park. So,
But I mean,
but he was, like I said, he was totally supportive, and he actually helped to form one of the only sanctioning bodies at the time for competition because he saw that there was no organization in skating. It was just such a Wild West.
so you were famous by what age?
I guess that depends on how you define fame.
Right.
I
It's
was,
always shifting. That's true. But I mean,
was
like,
known in the skateboard community for sure by the time I was 15 or 16.
and in the wider community, like when would I
So in the 80s, skating was kind of big.
feel like I knew
Back
you
to the
were
Future.
in the 80s? Yeah.
Yeah, and I was
feel-
doing really well in competitions. So if anyone was looking at skateboarding, they might have seen my name because I was winning a lot of events. But so you know,
And did it
like
make you popular?
mid to late 80s.
Like with girls?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was a weird time because there weren't a lot of
Yeah,
girls.
there must be skateboarding groupies.
More so now.
More so now?
Yeah, because skating is really
You
considered
feel
cool
cheated by
now.
that?
What's that?
Do you feel cheated by that?
No,
Are you bitter?
no,
Come on.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Tell me
I've
about
lived
all-
many
tell me,
lifetimes.
How is a skateboarding groupie like different than, say, the Motley Crue groupie?
I don't. I haven't met both, so I don't really know.
Well, I'll get Tommy Lee over here.
But now skateboarding is much more diverse. I mean, there are equal events, and there's parity and prize money, men and women. So, groupie is a tough term, but I would say that if you say that you're a pro skateboarder now, that has much more merit than when I said I was a pro skateboarder in 1984.
Really?
Because if you said
Yeah.
you're a pro skateboarder in 1984, they're like, you still skateboard at your age? And I was 16.
Right. It was a kid's thing.
It was a kid's thing.
Right.
Yeah, so it was more like
So
it wasn't the
interesting.
best in to meet girls.
Wow. Huh.
And then when there was sort of a little bit of more hype in like 1988-ish,
Yeah.
then it was more like, oh, hey, that's cool. You're a professional. Wow, you travel the world.
Well, you got married young, right?
I did, yeah.
How old?
I was 24.
Okay. So, when you get married at 24, what are you thinking? Because
Well, I was starting a family. I mean, it was all kind of happening quick. It didn't last that way, but it
Yeah,
was
the
more
fir-
just
it's-
I was kind of a disaster. So, I thought I was getting grounded in my chaotic lifestyle of skating because skating was taking me all over the world, and it was kind of frantic.
Mhm.
It was like it was a strange space to be in because no one had really done it yet, made a career like that. And we were sort of forging the way, so we didn't really even know what
but
we
that's
were doing.
exciting, isn't it?
It was exciting, yeah.
It's so, I mean, to
Yeah.
be,
It was crazy. I mean, I never expected to leave San Diego, and all of a sudden I was in Japan for 2 weeks. I was in Australia for a month. I was in Europe for 2 months. It was like, I didn't, it wasn't like when people pick up the guitar and they're like, I'm going to travel the world and I'm going to play. It was like, I picked up a skateboard because I loved doing it. I had no idea that it was going to take me around the world or make any money ever. It was kind of wild.
and what about drugs? Is it like Lance Armstrong and the doping scandal? That there was steroid or
No.
whatever. They're not doping to.
I've never seen anyone that was doing that was, I don't know. That I feel like that just doesn't give you an advantage.
never
in
were-
skating.
Really?
No, yeah. I mean,
But
at some point you got to be
hand-eye coordination and
you got to be
quickness.
flexible too, though. You know what I mean?
Why would that make you unflexible? I mean,
I don't know. It just feels like if you're on steroids, it's more for the actual power and the muscles.
okay, but like when
I don't think it's
when
an advantage to
when
it.
baseball was going through its steroid
Yeah.
period. You remember that?
Sure.
Mark McGuire, Sammy
Sure.
Sosa, Barry Bonds, they were all hitting 70.
Right, but that's what I mean. Like skateboarding isn't about
But
the.
why did they hit? What was the connection between why those balls were flying out and the steroids? I think it's hand-eye coordination.
Not strength or the power behind it.
Yes, that too. But I think what really makes the ball fly out of the yard is how fast you hit it. And
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there might be an example of someone that was juicing and skateboarding and that was doing well, but I don't know anything about that. Like I've never seen anyone.
I've never
Do it?
thought they should have even been prosecuted because everything changes in sports
Mhm.
over time. I mean, Babe Ruth didn't have to face black players. Really, in his era, he didn't have to play night games. He had a high batting average because they wore little mitts. I mean, everything. So the fact that they were, juicing at a certain point. I mean, but so were the pitchers. Roger Clemens was
Yeah,
doing
well,
it too.
I mean, that's the whole thing with Lance Armstrong. It was like, it wasn't that he was doing it. It was that
Everybody was
everyone
doing
was doing it, so he figured out how to do it the most stealthy or the better way. I don't know.
Yes.
Like, yeah, that's
Well,
wild. But
he sat here and he told me how he did it.
Mhm.
He said, every drug test I took, it was a real drug test. It wasn't somebody else's pee. It's just that I knew how to get stuff that left your body in 4 hours.
Yeah, I mean, that was it. It was like, don't hate the player, hate the game.
That's
That's
why I think the Lance Armstrong story is a great story.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Because it's a great American story, because America wanted him to be the champion.
Right.
And he did what we wanted. He got to be the champion by doing something that everybody else was doing. And then, he was the history's greatest monster when he lied about it.
Yeah.
And he was, by his own admission, kind of an asshole about it. And was like very driven. You seem like the nice version. Not that he's a bad guy.
But also when you talk about skating, like, I just don't think anything is going to be an advantage. I know plenty of skaters that smoked a lot of weed.
Really? Weed? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and they
do
skated well. What's that?
Doesn't do anything for you. But that I associate with skating. Like almost to the point where you could do a joke, and I think I probably have, and I think I may have just done one, intimating the connection between weed and
skating. I mean, I agree with you that there's definitely the stereotype, and to some extent, especially in the 80s, that was on point. But I feel like now skating is so much more diverse, and there's so many people, and now it's in the Olympics, so people are very serious, but they're working out. Like, they're sponsored by Nike. They have those resources.
Baked when you skated?
No, I smoked weed a little bit when I was younger, and it really affected my skating negatively. And I was so hyper fixated on skating that it was like, I can't do that because this is what I have. This is what I do.
No, I can see that. I mean, I can see how it would be bad. I've played basketball stoned, and I can be pretty good stoned. Sometimes I think even better, but not drunk. I tried that a couple. That really threw my game off.
I learned my lesson the hardest way, drinking and skating. I was skating at a party. Basically, I didn't realize it was like before raves were raves. And it was just this random warehouse party way outside of a city in New Zealand.
You were hired to do this, or you were just having fun?
No, we were there on tour, and they said, hey, there's this big warehouse party. You guys should go. And they have a mini ramp. I'm like, yeah, sweet, let's go.
Okay.
And so we went, and somewhere around 1 or 2 a.m., they said, last call, let's go drink. And so we went and pounded a few beers, went back to the mini ramp. I dropped in and hit the other wall, like as if it was just a wall, not a ramp or a slope.
And that was uncharacteristic.
Very much so. And that was my lesson. I was like, I can't drink and skate.
Is that on film?
No, thankfully.
Are you sure?
I mean, we're talking about like 1990.
What about doing a reenactment?
I do that enough on accident. So.
Did you ever think you were going to die doing that?
No.
No? You never thought, I just fucking, like, while you were midair?
I had some bad concussions, bad accidents. And for sure, in hindsight, that was extremely dangerous and life-threatening. What's that?
You've had concussions?
Yeah, several, yeah.
What's that like?
It sucks because you wake up and you wake up elsewhere, and you at first don't remember what happened.
You were completely knocked out.
Oh, yeah.
So when you come to.
Yeah, well, there's sort of a gray period where you have come to, but you keep repeating the questions. You keep asking what happened, and you're not cognizant really.
Wow.
Because I've seen other people go through it, so I know what it's like.
Scary.
What's scary is when you've had enough concussions that you recognize you're concussed. And so you're like, I know this feeling.
Right.
I must have hit my head. But also it calms you down because you think, it's going to come back to me.
Right.
I'm going to get there. But I've had residual effects. I mean, a couple times where there was one where there were a couple weeks where I couldn't really concentrate. I was trying to edit videos. I just couldn't make sense of it. So I'm very cognizant of that. I'm very, I'm aware of the risks, and I've definitely been proactive in studying it.
Are there lingering effects? I mean, like, no? So like a day later, you're not like.
Not now.
Peeing in the hamper and throwing your clothes in the toilet?
Not now, no. I mean, I definitely had, like I told you that one, I had another one where I had recurring migraines for a couple weeks. So.
But that's what they worry about in football, CTE.
Of course, yeah. And like I said, I've been proactive in sort of getting tested and making sure that I have all my facilities, and
So this is as smart as you get.
this is it. You get me at my best.
What is liquid death? Well, it may look like a beer or some crazy energy drink, but it's not. Liquid Death is actually a healthy beverage brand that makes mountain spring water, low sugar sodas, and low sugar iced teas. Maybe you think you've caught your Uber driver pounding a tall boy. No, that's Liquid Death. Okay, but why would a healthy beverage ever be called Liquid Death? Because they're bringing death to single-use plastic bottles, which are not recyclable. That's BS. And Liquid Death uses infinitely recyclable aluminum cans. If plastic pollution isn't curbed, plastic will outweigh fish in the ocean by 2050. I am a big planet guy and a big sugar is bad guy, so between these two, Liquid Death makes a lot of sense to me. You can get free shipping of Liquid Death's mountain water, flavored sparkling and iced tea 8-packs with Amazon Prime, or grab a can or a case at your local 7-Eleven, Target, Walmart, Whole Foods, or on Instacart. Go to liquiddeath.com/random to check out all their healthy, recyclable beverages and find your closest retailer. That's liquiddeath.com/random. liquiddeath.com/random. Warmer, sunnier days are calling. Fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great-tasting food. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? You always have new flavors to explore. Enjoy dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Another few things that are awesome about Factor: restaurant-quality dishes ready to eat in 2 minutes, and there is no shopping, prepping, cooking, or no arguing with the waiter over why, since COVID, they now make you pack up your own doggy bag. Head to factormeals.com/random50 and use code random50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code random50 at factormeals.com/random50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Hey, I'll be at the Orpheum Theater in Minneapolis on July 13th and the Riverside in Milwaukee on July 14th. And on the July 26th, I'll be at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway in Boston, Massachusetts. And July 27th, the Toyota Oakdale Theater in Wallingford, Connecticut. Come out and laugh your ass off. So what do you do for fun when you're not risking your life?
I just stay home. I just try to stay home.
What's at home? Your wife?
My wife, we have one still at home. My daughter's
So
15.
this is wife number 3?
Yeah, 4.
4?
Yeah.
Oh, come on, man.
But I mean, we're on 10 years. I finally figured it out.
What is different about the 4 that you didn't know?
Well, one is that we are absolutely perfect for each other, no question.
That helps.
2 is that I finally did a lot of work on myself and sort of figured out how to be happy, centered, content, and honestly to like what I was doing, to like myself, because I was skating, but I just didn't really. At some point, I was
You grew up and matured. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Aging sucks. We all know that, but it's also fucking great because you're just different in your 50s and 60s. You're comfortable in your skin. You know exactly who you are.
This is the best version I've been, for sure.
Me too.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's a cruel joke that the God I don't believe in.
No, but I do.
on us.
I feel like, especially with my wife, like, we are older. We're both, she's only a year younger than me, but I feel like we are in our best years. Like, it's amazing.
I always think of that when somebody great croaks, like, wow, like so much that you put into a life to gather all this wisdom and knowledge and sensitivity and all these good things. And then, that's the time you would want to preserve it.
Right, and that's when your body's starting to fail you.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's when it goes,
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely hanging on, hanging on to that, to what youth I have, especially with the skating. But I feel you, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's only about tomorrow person. Like memories, sad memories, memories of things that were bad and sad. They don't make me sad. They make me happy because they're over.
Oh, yeah.
But good memories make me sad because good memories are things that are also over
And fleeting.
and fleeting
Yep.
and in many ways irrecuperable.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But the future is still the future. No matter how old you are, tomorrow is still.
Oh no, and I feel like we're creating incredible memories now because we have that much appreciation and we have all of that experience to understand why we should appreciate it that much more. No, I mean I love life now. It's way more fun than it's ever been.
So the fourth wife is the lucky one.
I
She's
I
the
think
one
we're
that got the good version of you.
well, but also she was the catalyst
Ah.
for that. Yeah.
Do you ever feel bad about past wives, past relationships? Wait, let me finish the question.
Okay.
Feel bad because you learned something on a later person that you didn't know when you were with the earlier person, and you're like, yeah, that I would have gone better for her and me and you if I had known that then, but I didn't learn it until Susie. But I feel bad because I should have known it when I was with Sally, but I didn't, and so she suffered.
I don't think I get that introspective on it.
No,
No.
I feel that all the time. I feel like, oh yeah, if I hadn't been such a dipshit.
I mean, I feel like
when
I could say that through so many points in my life, not just with relationships, but
So you think it's as ridiculous as I do when people say, I have no regrets?
oh yeah. Well, that just seems like you're not accountable for anything.
It seems to me like you're not sentient. I mean, how can
Yeah.
you not have regrets? Every day I have a regret, even if it's just the most minor ones.
Sure.
Like, it's like, I never had a perfect day. Like Trump had a perfect call. My day was perfect. I was in court. I didn't say a word.
I always wonder what a perfect call sounded like. Like, what if you hang up and go, that was a perfect
it's
call?
such a testament to his insanity to even come up with that concept. I mean, it's just not a phrase that you've ever heard anyone else say. A perfect call. Perfect. A phone call? Perfect? Like, no one else in the universe ever put those two things together. A perfect and a phone call. It just doesn't happen except in the mind of an insane person. That's what people miss about him. He's stupid, of course, but also insane. That is insane. That is a level of insanity of our past and future president. But I don't want to drag you into politics. And
I did politically incorrect.
oh, I remember.
Yeah.
You remember the sign?
Sure.
The
Yeah.
behind
I saw
you?
it. Yeah.
Isn't that awesome that I fucking saved that all these years?
pretty
And
cool.
Doesn't it look like a cool thing in front of a stripper pole? Isn't that where it belongs?
Yeah, that's perfect.
I mean, come on, man. Yeah, I remember. Again, 90s. But that's why I'm saying I was obviously aware of you then, and you obviously had risen to the level where you were on talk shows.
Yeah. I don't know if I was quite prepared or qualified to be on politically incorrect, but I was stoked.
There were no qualifications.
Okay.
That was the point of the show.
That was the idea.
The point was to put together four people who were. But I always thought that was a great name because of the Chiron, of course, that were senator, actress, skateboarder. It's like perfect. This is what I'm trying to do: create this train wreck of mismatched people. And do you remember who you were on with?
No, I don't. I remember I tried to get a few words in edgewise, and it didn't land.
Somebody was drowning you out?
Yeah.
Could have been Pauly Shore.
It was not Pauly Shore. I would have remembered that for sure. I feel like I would have been, like, I had a little chum with him. So.
But I mean, when you do see stuff, from the 90s, occasionally they'll rerun something somewhere or something. I mean, it does look like the land that time forgot.
Oh yeah.
The hair, there's a certain kind of, I think it was Armani influenced suit
Yeah.
that men were
The
wearing.
thin leather jackets.
That too. I mean, it wasn't as horrific as the 80s with the hot pink and the hot
Yeah.
ice blue. But there is a kind of a look, and the ties are, you know, if you see a movie from the 90s, and it's like, wow, that should be recent. And I mean,
Yeah.
that show went on 31 years ago.
Right.
I mean, 31 years is, you know,
That's a lot of taped conversation.
that's a chunk of time. I know. I don't know where it goes, or of course you can't get it back, but what would you tell your, like, if you have one thing to tell your young self from your old self, what would you tell them? What would save you the most pain that you could say to a person?
If you find yourself shooting a TV show for MTV with 2 of the Jackass cast and you're dressed in a monkey suit, don't try to do a full loop. That's what I would tell my younger self.
Much more specific than
Yeah,
I
it's
thought.
very specific. Yeah, because
So-
I ended up with a broken pelvis, a
Oh.
fractured skull, broken thumb, and a lot of pain.
So what show was this for?
Wild Boys.
Wild Boys.
Yeah.
That was on MTV?
Yeah, that was one of the offshoots of Jackass. So it was when Steve-O and Chris Pontius did their own thing with mostly like animals, wild animals.
Okay, I mean, the Steve-O guy was taking shots at me in the press recently.
Oh yeah, that was unfortunate.
It was not unfortunate. Unfortunate is Darfur. This was just, I mean, look, I don't want to start a feud, and I'm sorry that he felt slighted or something, but it is ridiculous that somebody thinks that I should give up pot smoking because they have a problem. Then I'm sorry, you can't be here. And, you know.
Well, it's your show. I mean,
It's my
I
show,
get it, yeah.
my house,
Yeah.
my rules. And it's sort of almost the point of the show is that I already have another show. It's called Real Time. It's on
Right.
HBO, and it's very much not on pot. It's on point. This is different. This is just shooting the shit.
Yeah.
And this is how I shoot the shit.
Mhm.
This is an attempt to get conversation as real as it ever is, just like if we were doing this. And I don't see anything that we've said that I wouldn't have just said to you if there were no cameras here.
Mhm.
And you don't even know where the cameras are. Okay, so let's remember that. But, you know, that's what it is. And, I mean, I have no feud with any of these Jackass. I've watched all the movies. They are funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I do like that kind of, even though I know it's coming, like a physical gag like that. It's funny.
Well, so much of it is I was actually talking about this. We have a podcast, Hawk versus Wolf.
I know you do.
And we just interviewed Jeff Tremaine today, the director of Jackass. And we were talking about how a lot of the skits that became Jackass iconic moments
Right.
were just things that were filler for skate videos. I mean, all that stuff was like, there would be skate videos, you'd have just sort of weird segues in between the skating segments, which were just kind of Jackass type stunts.
Right.
And that's how they started. It really is how they started. They had a Big Brother magazine, was a sort of irreverent skate magazine that was uncensored, that was just raw and funny. That's where Knoxville did his review of self-defense devices.
Okay.
And where he shot himself. I don't know if you ever saw that, but that's
Yes.
that was for a skate magazine. And so they made a video of it, and then they were talking about how this just was skating sensibilities turned into a whole show.
But what you were doing, you were not trying to hurt yourself.
Not at all.
I mean,
but,
there's a very big difference.
but we knew the humor in it.
I see the Venn diagram
Sure.
overlap
Okay.
between what you do and Jackass. I think there's a huge
I just
difference.
said skate sensibilities. I'm just talking about the idea that you're willing to risk yourself for.
Yes, but you're doing it again to perform this ballet. They're not doing it for that reason, you know.
Sure.
Just take the compliment because it is in your favor.
Oh,
you know?
I'm a fan. I love it.
Look, like I say, I love laughing, and that shit gets, I mean, that's a great just a laugh-a-thon. Most of it, some of it, if it's gross or something, I mean, I can also hate it, but it's, look, they gave me laughs. I like anyone who gives me laughs. But it also does remind me that, you know, show business, you got to love it. And one thing about it is, if you really insist on being in show business, you can be. You can find a way. It won't be dignified.
Yes.
You know, it's the old joke about the guy who shovels the shit behind the elephant at the circus.
Yeah, leave your dignity at the door.
You know, what, and leave show business?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and some people just insist on being in show business, and God bless them.
Yeah.
That's, you know, you made it work for you at a price I don't think is worth it. But if that's the only way you were going to get into the business, I mean, you work with what you got. You work with the hand you're dealt.
But I do think that they had they were creative in this Buster Keaton sort of way, and it was, they were willing to destroy themselves for the sake of comedy. But
That's the little.
But it was so funny. I mean, we were just talking about, I don't know if you see the bungee thing with Preston and Wee Man, where Preston is the bigger guy,
Right.
Wee Man is the little guy,
Right.
and Preston stood on a bridge and he was bungeed to Wee Man, who jumped off the bridge, and just that in itself was
Right.
one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
No, it is funny. It is. I mean, it damn well better be.
Yes.
When you give up your kidney.
True.
You know,
Yeah.
you better
Or your urethra, as Johnny
you better
Knoxville knows.
I mean, I've given up dignity for sure on stage. I mean, when you're standing there opening for, you know, a rock band, which I've done, and they're literally throwing shit at you to get off the stage, and you're dodging stuff while you're telling jokes, you do not have a shred of dignity. I'll admit that. I mean, I've been there.
And paying your dues.
Yes, and just, or by my own stupid fault, like, you know, turning off a crowd. I mean, this is 40 years ago, but, you know, still. And so, like, no matter what I said, just, they were like, look, like when your girlfriend's pissed at you, you know, just a look on their face like, you think I'm going to laugh at you now?
Yeah.
After what you just said? So, I mean, but that's a lot different than your body.
True.
You know, you only get one, and as we know, it's a reclamation project to keep it in top shape.
Oh, I know it.
As time goes by. But you generally feel healthy.
I do. I kind of turned a corner recently. I broke my leg 2.5 years ago. Like, broke my femur in half.
Doing what you love.
Doing what I love, yeah. And being careless with it. And I paid the price. I fucked around and found out. And that recovery was really rough because I got back on my skateboard too soon. My bone shifted out of alignment. So I had to have a second surgery to put it back in place. And now I've taken it upon myself where I'm not taking those unnecessary risks anymore. I embrace how old I am and that I get to do this at all on any level. So I've actually kind of reached a more baseline of skating.
You always got to throttle back, and it's
sure.
Aging is a.
But I wasn't until I was 53.
Yeah, it's not going to be exactly the same, and that's okay. That's the.
I think that's the hard lesson I learned.
You make up for it with other
through that thing.
You know, it's always a balancing and a trade-off of, but I'm also getting better at this.
True.
You know, I mean, I'm lucky because what I do is up here, so I can be getting better at 68.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas an athlete, you guys, you know, that candle burns when you're young.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's something one of the great advantages, I'll never understand the beauty, the joy. It's kind of the same with music, usually flowers only when you're young, of certain highs that I think athletes and musicians reach. But I'm also like doing better at my age than most of them are. Certainly too. Athletes.
Yeah, but when you say it's funny because skateboarding, like I said, is such an art form as much as it is a sport, that there are techniques that I now have learned and that I am working on that are better than what I used to do. They're just not as high impact or as risky. And it's like I never wanted to zero in on those because they didn't seem as interesting. And now they are the interesting thing because it's more like,
That is,
oh, I can explore this because I still have this skill set and these things aren't going to kill me.
that itself is
So,
interesting.
It's really fun.
But
So I mean, like today, this year, I learned a new trick that no one had done before.
but in 10 years,
No, not in 10. I mean, I don't know. What kind of, if you asked me 10 years ago, will you be doing this in 10 years? I would have probably said, I don't
Right.
know. So,
Mick Jagger is going on tour at 80. I mean,
yeah, I think 80 is, that's it. No more McTwist at 80.
but then what will you replace it with? That's all.
No, I mean, I think that I'll replace it with enjoying my children and my children's children and more just sort of reveling in
but
that.
you've already been doing that for decades.
Sure. Well, I'm saying grandkids. Grandkids would be great because then you can rile them up and give them back.
Yeah, I never had the chip to like kids or want to have kids or, you know.
Oh, you've been very transparent about that.
Well, that sounds like you're hurling down a glove there.
No. I'm just saying. I know that about you. I watched. I'm a fan.
Oh,
So,
thank you. I
yeah,
appreciate that.
of course.
Yeah, I mean,
So I'm just saying. I've heard you say it many times. That you're not interested in having kids. You don't like kids.
I'm not. Well, I feel like I have to speak that because nobody else will, and I speak for so many people in the country. You'll feel that way.
Oh, for sure.
And I just, all I'm ever saying about that is that there should be no moral dimension to it. When I started in television, probably when you were first on that show, it was considered kind of like you're a weirdo if you don't aspire to have children.
Oh, I agree completely. And I know plenty of people that are not interested, and
Right.
that's their choice. I respect it. Like, of course, you don't have to.
Right.
It's not a requirement of being a human.
Right, exactly. And it doesn't make you a better or worse person.
Yeah.
What makes you a better or worse person, I think, is how you are as a parent. If you're a bad parent, you're a worse person than me. Because I didn't fuck anybody up.
Yeah.
I didn't have anybody.
Yeah, you're creing more problems.
But I didn't fuck
Right.
anybody up
Yes.
either. I didn't have somebody and then shirk my responsibility.
No, I agree with you completely.
If I had had a kid, I don't think I would have, been there to the degree that a kid needs. I mean, to a certain degree, you absolutely do have to trade your life for your children's. I mean, that is the priority life now. You go through your life before you have children, and there's no doubt whose life is a priority? Mine. Now, you fall in love, maybe you'd save your lover before you. Certainly Jack did it in Titanic, although as many people have pointed out, although I was
They
one
could
of
have
the
been,
first,
didn't have to.
right, he could have got on the thing. She
Dumb. That is the
was a little
dumbest thing.
selfish there with the, you know what? I've had a rough day. I really need to stretch out. But, I just never wanted kids. I didn't want them when I was young, and they were cruel. Kids are cruel. I didn't need that, and they ostracize you, they bully you. Like I said, they have to be taught to be decent human beings. It is not.
Oh,
it's
sure,
not something
yeah.
that comes naturally.
Yeah, and on the flip side of that, like I said, my wife and I, we have many children between us, and the most rewarding thing is when
When you say many between us, but you mean?
she has 2, I have 4.
Oh, I see. That's the 6.
Yeah,
So it's a blended family.
blended
so you
family,
had
yeah.
4 biological ones, and then I see. So this is like yours, mine, and ours.
absolutely, yeah,
I see.
yeah, and it's just the most rewarding thing as a parent. And I'm not in no way am I trying to
No.
to pitch it to you. I'm
You're
just saying one of the most rewarding thing as a parent is when you see your kids and they end up becoming young adults or full-blown adults, when you see them make good choices and you know that you had some influence
Yeah,
on
and I'm
that.
sure that's great.
That is and at some point, we've come a long way with our relationship, and there's been plenty of ups and downs through all of our years. But when we see them all together and we see them talking, conversing, joking,
Sure. Yeah.
that's what it's about. And we look at each other and go,
Right.
we did it.
Right.
Look at this.
No, I
These are
totally,
functioning adults. Yeah.
I obviously can't relate in a direct way, but I get that. I really
And
do.
but I get it for you, where it's like
Yeah.
I'm not interested. That's not
No.
my. That's not my.
And there's no danger of you tempting me, talking me into this. That,
Oh, no.
there'd be more,
In no way would I.
be more likely that I go out there and do a half pipe, or I could do a full pipe. I could do a hash pipe before this would happen. But it is just personal taste, and it's probably, again, everything goes back to our first few years of life, and
Yeah.
what environment plus innateness and what we inherited, our genetics, our DNA, made us this person we are. And it is amazing to me how that has been so steady throughout my life, the kid thing. Didn't like them when I was one, didn't change in my...
When I was one.
When I was one.
Feel that, yeah.
Didn't change in my childbearing age, and didn't change in my post-childbearing age.
Did you ever date anyone with a kid?
Oh, single mothers?
Yeah.
Yes, of course. There was it's funny you say that. I did have a single mother period where I don't know what it was, the universe, although I don't believe in that, but I just was with a lot of single mothers. I mean, they were 22.
Okay.
I was probably 40.
So, but young kids then?
Very young kids who I never met.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I get
And
it.
never wanted to meet.
Yeah.
And they were fine with that. They
Yeah.
were like young mothers
Right.
who were they of course loved their kid, but they were young. They wanted to have fun.
Yeah.
When I came around, it was it was not about the kid, and we both loved it that way.
Yeah.
I once had an idea, and I pitched it, and could have sold it, except there was a technical problem. I mean, a business problem. I was on a network, and I couldn't do a show for another network, but they wanted to do it, the single mother's beauty pageant. I wanted to do a beauty pageant.
Wow.
I pitched this really and they put the little 4-year-old boy in a tuxedo, walking his mother down. There would not have been a dry eye in the house. I would still do it if anybody's hearing this who wants to do my single mother's beauty pageant.
That sounds like the reboot of Politically Incorrect.
This would be even better. You have to get HBO's permission, and that's going to be tough again. But I think I could knock this out of the park. I think it's very funny, and I think it tugs at the hearts of Americans because, there was a time when single mothers was not a thing. I mean, you ever watch Mad Men?
Sure.
Great show about you're a little younger than me, but my youth in the 60s, there were no single mothers. That was not a thing.
No.
We didn't hear about it at school. It wasn't in the neighborhood, Then it became a big thing. And so there was some judgment, much less now, but there's so many single mothers. Now it's almost...
Oh, I mean, I grew up in the 70s, so most of my friends, it was just they lived with their mom. That was it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing the way the family did really break down from when I was a kid. I mean, honestly, growing up in 60s New Jersey, there was quite a few suicides.
Wow.
But no divorce,
Mm-hmm.
which tells you something about marriage.
Oh, my God.
No, really.
I walked into that one.
No, it's true. There was guys in the swimming pool.
Wow.
But not a divorce. Yeah, that was much more common, I feel. I remember 3 of those and no divorce. And on Mad Men, there was one character who was the divorced lady. And she was shunned. We were the Amish or something, and she was using a radio. I mean, she was lived at the end of the block, and her kid was all fucked up. And
D-word.
the D word.
Yeah.
It's amazing how far this country has come. But anyway, I'm gonna go back to my day job. But this was
I'll watch you there. So
yeah, I
thank you.
appreciate that.
So my wife, she has sleepless nights sometimes, and if I hear your voice, I know that she's not sleeping.
Your wife watches me?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, we both watch it, but a lot of times she'll catch up while I'm asleep because she's
that.
awake. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So thank you.
hello. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thanks for
Great to
thanks
meet
for
you.
lulling me back to sleep every once in a while.
I'll take it.
Random.
Oh, and I signed this for you.
Oh wow. Thank you.
I signed it with great respect to an ultimate champion.
Oh, I
which is
appreciate it.
you
Bill.
are.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I'm honored.
you're the
Thanks
babe.
for having me.
You're the babe.
Random.